All right, everybody. Well, thanks. I guess we're recording. We'll get started. I got Godzilla, the Blu-ray, waiting for me at home, and my grandson waiting to watch it with me. But anyway, I'm joking. I think we should just dive into it. I'll just start with Eric emailed to the committee members this KPMG, and I'll tell you how this kind of came about. When we sent the letter to staff, to the city commission and to the city manager on the scope stuff that we discussed last week, Kate began to work on it, and she started reaching out to some folks, and she happened to stumble upon KPMG also in the systems that they use for putting I think it's called Demand Star, where they put in proposals, and she found that the state currently has a contract with KPMG that they have already pre-negotiated rates, mainly the rates, the pre-negotiated hourly rates and stuff like that. And in her work going through that, she found also how other cities have piggybacked on the state contract. And if you recall, when we first met, I talked a little bit about piggybacking also in the procurement process.
Yep.
It helps municipalities and counties streamline their process, because if someone has already pre-negotiated something, why do the process all over again? So it's a permitted way of procuring. And she began a conversation with KPMG. I reached out to Kate. She shared with me some of her conversations. She shared with me an email, which is this, and a couple other scope letters, which I didn't send out, but I can send it out if you guys like. I didn't see it added any value for you guys. It was just, thank you for hiring us. We're going to do this work, that kind of stuff. And in looking at that, and also knowing that two things: the committee has been conscious of watching the cost when this comes out, because remember we talked about a la carte, and in the interest of possibly getting it done quickly with a competent company, and it happened to be the company that we kind of sort of did most of our work based off of. And also seeing that this is not a company, because I'm looking at the transparency and the optics and the separation, there's not a company that the city has picked in any way or favored, because it's a state contract. Hey, how are you, Santiago? And based on that, I wanted to share this with the committee as a potential that we can streamline the process, we can engage with them and ask them to submit a scope and proposal based on what we wrote out for them. If you look at what they have written out here, I think it's very similar already. And however, I still, I'll do a brief recap for you, Santiago. I still want to ask Kate to reach out, if the committee agrees, to KPMG, if they can still kind of find a way to a la carte this for us, because we do want to be cost conscious. If you look at this, one of these proposals, I think it came in at $199,000. Right? When I read it, I seen that. Yeah, right there. Grand total $199,724.
Funny how it comes out to 200, right?
Well, remember, this was done
I know,
a year or two ago. So.
I know.
Do we know what Fort Lauderdale's relative?
The rate went?
No, relative sizes to us.
I don't know, population?
I can find out, but I would, and I apologize, this is Eric, representing Santiago's office. I can find out, but I would imagine it's going to be much larger than Deltona.
So I'm hoping that due to the volume or whatever records or whatever they need to
Might
go
be
through,
less,
that
yeah.
will be, yeah, absolutely.
Santiago, what I was sharing was, you have in front of you, and I think Eric sent that email. I just got the email the evening before, and I should have sent it out then, so my apologies, but I asked Eric to send this out this morning. It's KPMG, and what I found out in talking to Kate Krause, our procurement director, who was going to put it in the scope request, RFP, she found that KPMG already has a state contract.
Oh, okay.
It's already pre-negotiated with the state, and we're capable of piggybacking, right? And in the interest of time and cost.
Can I ask?
Yeah, go for it, yeah.
So, are they still going to come to us and make a presentation?
I want them to, that's why I was going to.
Okay,
yeah, I think so.
Because I think we all probably have specific questions that we'd like to.
Yeah, and no, I didn't want to give up on that, because the
Okay.
committee asked for that. What I'd like to do is, if you want to take a few minutes so we can look over this again, well, what I'd like to do, and I'm open to wherever the committee wants to go, is to consider having KPMG look at our scope that we put out, which is probably mirrors very closely what we have here, and come see us, give us an a la carte pricing if they can, as best as possible, and then we can make our recommendation based on that. Any thoughts, or want to go a different direction?
Representative, just for the record, Fort Lauderdale is twice the size of the city of Deltona
Okay.
population-wise.
So I'm saying volume, scope of work should be, I mean, we could take that into consideration
I
as
got
far
you.
as what the cost is. I want to make sure, I want to see if we include in the scope, because it's already in here about looking, part of their scope is looking at the age and stuff of the water meters, you know, and just, if we can briefly, I don't know if committee has considered this or anyone has considered this, we're talking about the smart water technology also, if they can take, only if we have,
To give us a
if only
summary and
it's
the
part,
benefits of it?
only if it's part of their already scope. You know, they've done it before, they should have background knowledge already. It shouldn't, I'm not talking about a deep dive,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
But relative to our municipality.
I actually like that.
Yeah.
So Santiago, what you missed last week is that someone spoke in the public regarding basically technology piece and acknowledging that we're on the right path, and he has seen very similar issues and comments and initiatives in many of other municipalities, and he shared a book with us.
Okay.
And we talked during that conversation briefly about smart meters and the brief potential of benefits that it can bring to both the water department and residents.
Yeah, a lot of customer-friendly features on it that will help people.
Watching your mixed stuff in live time. So we're not advocating, nor we're not whatever, but we would like to see, because we're coming up on 25 years old, if we're going to like overhaul or best benefit our community, right? I think that when we're talking about green initiatives, also the other stuff that we're investing in, I just think that it should be part of the conversation.
So, I wrote it down. So,
Let's just remind ourselves, though, that we basically concluded last week that the top two priorities are rates and quality.
Rates, quality with IT, technology coming in there also. And I would love to hear your thoughts on that, because we briefly said like what our 5 real objectives were, and I would like your input, Santiago, on like what do
Did you
you
see the
think
scope?
is important?
summary?
I briefly looked at it.
Okay.
I was, I'm sorry. No, you're fine. And my whole ideal is to listen to last meeting sometime tonight.
Okay.
Just briefly, I was in a personal situation with my wife.
That's okay.
She's going through a really hard time, so I honestly haven't had a chance to sit down.
We
give
just want to
it the
make sure
attention it needs.
we
Yeah,
implement
yeah.
your thoughts in this too. It's
I
really for that.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
So let me just, I wrote stuff down last week, so let me just say, we decided that the human capital was going to be outside, the regulatory would be outside auditor, the reclaimed water we were going to leave as internal controls, we decided was going to be an outside, capital projects was at the outside, community engagement piece, we decided was going to be on the internal side.
Okay.
The IT, we want the outside company to look at. Same with customer service and building, and the treatment and quality. Those were all what we're going to be including on the outside bid, I guess.
Yeah, so when we're talking about that, it's basically rates, water quality, IT, human capital, and customer service. I mean, but so what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's the direction we've been wanting to go. I mean, I think that focuses on what we need.
Okay.
Okay.
I got the summary letter here that I sent to the city commission, and Eric, they all get a copy of it by email,
Yes,
right?
I got it.
Okay, just want to make sure. Okay. Want to make sure we're sharing everything with everybody. And is there a copy out here?
No.
Of the scope,
Yeah.
I don't believe so, no.
Is there a way we can print one for Sandy? I'd love for them to have a copy of it too. Terry, do you have a copy of it?
No, I don't.
I can email it to you briefly. Terry. Sandy, I said Terry. I'm so sorry. I think it was okay.
How many copies?
Well, just 2. I want to make since they're here and they're spending the time. I want to make sure you have a copy of it. Okay. Sandy, I don't know your email, so I'm gonna let you put it. I'm sorry. This one, yeah. That's pretty good. So we have that spelled out. So is it okay with the committee? I don't think there's any objection to possibly piggybacking, right?
No?
Um,
Why pay for something that's already been done?
Yes.
and
Makes no
negotiate that, yeah.
sense to
Because
spend
it'll
more
just slow
money.
us down.
Plus,
As long as it's not more expensive that way.
Well, it's already a pre-negotiated contract with the state.
Yeah.
So typically,
It should.
they negotiate the lowest rates, typically.
And it should actually be lower because we're half the population as they are, but.
Yep.
Yeah, I hope so. We'll ask.
And I want to find out also, just as a point, they said in here to complement the skills and experience with KPMG, Public Works Solutions will serve. Now, that was in the letter to Fort Lauderdale, but I also know that they have done Atlanta and Charlotte County, which is the huge, the audit that we had been looking at, right? So they were a part of that also. I just don't know what their role would be. So if we're talking about for cost, we need to find out like what, you know what I mean, what their role is, adding extra staff, because I was looking at their rates per hour.
Hourly?
Yeah, per hourly. And I just want to make sure. I like their timing schedule though.
Yeah.
You know?
And I like how have it broken down in phases. It was 3 phases, correct? The
Yep.
process, 3 phases?
I like the fact that they're going to be looking at the field operations.
You're looking at that chart, yeah.
I think that's important.
So, I just could get those copies.
So,
is it-
go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just brainstorming. I was going to share that, would the direction from the committee be okay? Is there a consensus to say, for me to direct our procurement officer to use our scope, put it out to them, and ask them to categorize it in a way where we can pick how they can provide services, audit services to us?
Yeah, based
And-
on this,
Yeah.
loosely based on their
Scope of-
Charlotte County and,
Fort
the
Lauderdale.
format,
Yeah.
not scope, but format.
Yeah. And for them to come before us with that?
Yeah.
They'll send it to us ahead of time, and then we could ask them some questions?
Yes.
Now, in here, I was reading that
What page?
in their process, I'm
11.
paraphrasing.
Page 11.
Yeah, I'm
Thank
just
you,
looking
Sandy.
at their what their phases is, and one of the where okay, they work with the city. Would they be able to work with the water committee to keep the committee's involvement in the process?
Yeah, because
Or-
it says on here in the scope, when you're reading deeper in the scope, they work with the city and the city's agents, or you.
Well, that's the question. Would the committee be a city agent? Because I think,
What are you thinking?
I'm just saying, for the public to buy into what this is happening.
Stakeholder, I should say. That's what
Yeah,
it said.
okay.
Yeah.
For the people to buy into what's going on, we're seen, I think, as a group of independent people outside of the city. So our continued involvement would lead credence to what they're doing.
Okay. So would it be fair to say, to summarize what I think what you're saying, would a good idea be, let's say, halfway through the phases to give a summary to the committee of the process?
Well, let me ask you this.
Because they're not going to have their work done, you know?
Yeah, I just,
Well, let me, and I think I know where you're going, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think I know where you're going.
Can you identify yourself, ma'am?
Terry Ellis.
oh, I never did. I'm Tim Cole was making that before.
On the last page at the very top, because this goes along with what you're asking, Tim, the city will designate a qualified management level individual to serve as the day-to-day point of contact to facilitate the coordination of meetings and obtaining access to data and documentation. So that kind of goes along with what you're asking, Tim. I was just wondering the same thing. Who is going to function as the point of contact for the auditors? Is it going to be Deltona Water? Is it going to be somebody from the auditing committee, or is it going to be both? That's your thought too?
Yeah.
Because maybe they're saying throughout here that, because I'm sure that they're used to working with the water department as their point of contact, whereas our situation is a little bit different. This audit is being requested from an auditing group, from an external group. Is that where you're going?
Yes, absolutely. And I think
Okay.
I think the external
That was
group, the
going to be my next
committee,
question.
that the city has I think, made a really good decision to allow the committee to go for the legitimacy, for the buy-in of the public. I just think that an extra layer of eyes and ears.
I have mixed feelings on that. And certainly, I'm not opposed to individually for them giving us updates, right? But our role, we're not a city employee. We can't really add any value to that. So I don't want to overstep
I agree with David.
our boundaries, right? This is an independent party, so we're putting faith in them, right? However, I think them coming to say, hey, how's the process going? A 1 hour update saying, hey, I'm getting cooperation to the committee, right?
Mhm.
To us saying, I'm getting full or not, right? Or I'm having challenges.
I'd
Getting
be
through.
satisfied with that.
Yeah, the reason why I agree with David is because the last thing we want is to slow down the process.
And interfere with process.
Yeah, because what ends up happening usually is we all get excited. I mean, it is what it is. You know, we're doing something we haven't done before, and then instead of taking information in, then we're saying, well, why didn't you do this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and then we slow down the process. So I prefer to do it your way, where we're getting.
Yeah.
Can-
But-
Can I
Yeah,
step
sure.
in?
Go ahead.
Ken Hawkins, Deltona. Somebody from this committee needs to be there, whether it's you or one of the others, because you don't want to get overloaded as soon as they come to you and say, here's what we're doing. And you say, whoa, wait a minute, what page is that on? And if you're in the meetings with the city, you may not have any speaking rights, but at least you have the hearing rights. So I think either one or more people from this committee needs to be present at every update. If you go with KPMG, if you go with them, every time they have a meeting with the city, especially the water department, somebody from you five need to be there.
Can we figure what that looks like first before we make any, like, you know what I mean?
Those meetings are open to the public, correct?
Well, it depends what we talk as a meeting, right? If I'm I'm one of the analysts or whatever, and I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to go interview the water, I would envision them meeting with the Department of the Water, I forget what its title is, right? The director. Is that a meeting? I wouldn't think so, right? I wouldn't want to
Talk about like the
interfere with that.
updates and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think updates are good.
Yeah, because for that I agree. You know,
Yeah.
I just don't think we should be interfering with
And every step, no.
Yeah.
So here's the thing.
Remember,
I'm sorry.
No, I interrupted you, but I just want to say, remember, we're hiring an independent body
Exactly.
that is very credible. If we had someone shady, then I'd say we have to be there, right?
I said we don't hire them.
Yeah, exactly, right? So we got to put faith in their work.
No, we do.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would like to just look briefly on page 15, right? Well, at 14 and 15, but mostly 15. If you look at the Phase 3 outputs, the project deliverables, a draft report. I think that the committee should see the draft report. If you look at the final report delivered 2 weeks after delivery of draft report, I think that we should get a copy of that. Not that they, progress to date by task for each biweekly, because they are going to report biweekly. If we could just get a copy of that,
Yeah.
just to read along. We don't have to input, but just so that we can read along, because I think that our constituency wants to know that. Not that we should have any input. Pending or resolved issues, I think that we should, because public input is important there, and deliverable schedule compliances. So I just think that we should hear what their methodology is going to be as far as delivering before we kind of say how we want to be involved, and find a hybrid. I really do.
I think our involvement as an observer is important. Not at everything.
Yeah.
Not everything. I'm saying that for people to believe in what's happening,
Yeah.
it's important for this committee to get reports and to be, like you just said, all the type of information that we can.
And I don't disagree with you. I think you see, I've been trying to kind of make sure
Yeah.
we stay as that
I
as
understand.
possible.
And here's the thing
Without
too.
interfering too much.
Yeah, and I think too, from the resident side, Deltona Strong and Eyes on Deltona Water has a huge file that we've been keeping for a year now. And I think that all of that needs to be presented
No problem with that.
as part of Tim Santiago, as part of the residents' input. So,
Yeah.
and at least, and if we only listen, I think that it's important. I think that one of the most important things is knowing that KPMG is going to listen to the residents, and I think that we should entertain, have them come and do a public, you know, what,
Yeah.
at least at the launch and the kickoff to say, and invite all of the residents, right downstairs maybe, and come and say, this is what we're going to do,
I like
and use that.
I like that.
Right, for public
And-
input, and then let them do their job.
Yeah, and then the city commission probably will vote there saying, yes, we approve of it, move on, start your work, right?
Here's the thing with that, I always just want this to be a caveat.
Okay.
It has to be an open forum where residents can actually input, because one of the biggest things is it's
I would
quite
recommend it.
different.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, it's quite different to go into a commission meeting and not be able to say anything. If people like live dialogue, so I just think
So
that's
you're saying
important.
more of a town hall.
Yes,
Um,
they're gonna present to the city, right, at something, and I don't think it's a lot to ask, because why are we doing this for the residents? However you deem is best, the best use of time,
that could be
and
done in a city commission meeting.
but they don't, if regular
I
format,
like-
they don't get to speak.
So how about this as an idea? Kind of like what Dana's saying, we've had, some time ago, the city did something to figure out what residents wanted in our city.
Of the
A bunch of
focus
things
thing.
came up, the 5 things, you know, maybe something like that where they can just listen specifically what residents are wanting, some of their issues, some of their troubles. Maybe that'll even help the auditing company pinpoint certain situations that they can identify and say, well, you know what, this falls under this.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, because they've done this plenty of times, they'll say, you know what, the biggest problem that we notice from the residents is the rates, or is water quality, or is whatever the point is,
Or all the above.
or all the above, and it helps them when they're doing their auditing.
Could you envision, I'm not opposed to the concept.
Yeah.
Could you envision that possibly working where what I could see is a city commission meeting, and on the agenda item, we have KPMG is going to do a brief presentation as to the scope of work they're going to go on based on the recommendations of the Deltona Water Committee. They come up, right, and they show their slides, we're going to look at this, this, and this, and this, and this, and that, right, the whole dog and pony show, right? Get that done, and then any questions from the city commission. And then if the mayor at that time opened up the opportunity, if there's anyone from the public that would like to share any comments or feedback as it pertains to that.
If I can just input this, I don't think, this is my personal opinion, I think while it's that would be the obvious route to go, maybe for something like this, it would have to be separate. Not the voting part, we need to get that done, but at least the public input part, that way people come specifically for that, and it weeds out some of the drama that we've been having.
I would support that, but however, and I'm enjoying this dialogue, by the way, please trust me. I would support that, however, that's what we're here for now.
Yeah.
We're giving everybody that opportunity over, now this is what, our third meeting? So no one's been taken away from that opportunity, and I still would afford that opportunity, a recommendation to the mayor, saying afford anybody the opportunity at that forum to share any more.
He's got a point.
Yeah. So, but to create a whole nother hoopla, and I'm not saying that that's what it is, you know what I mean, a whole nother thing, let's not continue to add fuel to the fire. I think we're really focusing on solutions based, and we're getting closer and closer, and no one's been left out.
I think, like now that you say it like that, yeah.
But hold on, Terry. But strongly encourage the mayor at that point. Is there anyone that has any additional feedback for this scope, right?
Use your 4 minutes.
Here, and then and share. I would certainly recommend that. And then it's been probably the most open process the city's done in ages, right? Terry?
In theory, having it at the commission meeting and the process of what you just reviewed should be the way to go, because yes, the public has had every opportunity to give feedback because we've had these meetings. But if you use that format, I'm afraid that format, when people find out that the actual auditors who are going to be doing the work will be here,
Yeah.
and they're going to have the opportunity to speak with them, it's going to turn into a 4-minute
Bashing everything.
bashing.
But why wouldn't that same scenario happen if we did a separate forum?
Oh, it absolutely will.
It might. Yeah.
But it's not going to mix in with other city business, is what she's saying.
That was my.
Because, I'm sorry, but I'm thinking of, okay, I'm not going to name names.
Yeah,
There's a lot of residents who, that they will use that time
Yeah.
to just rehash all of their problems, their distrust, they're gonna use that 4 minutes to do that.
And run people off and not give other people time to speak that might have legitimate concerns, because in the past, we've had residents leave meetings in a city commission format
Was it a hostility?
because, well, the hostility, and because there were so many,
People.
so much muchness going on there that people didn't get to speak pointed about which they came to actually speak about.
And actually, if I can also interject,
I got another idea, but go ahead.
some of those people have showed up here,
Uh-huh.
and they've actually been less hostile,
Yeah.
with the exception of one occasion, but less hostile when it comes to specifically this, because they have, even though they have a vested interest in everything else, this is a more direct impact, I would say, on them, and they want to see a clear-cut resolution. So I think
Yeah.
just making it about that, it'll literally.
I think I got a hybrid idea to that.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you can have the KPMG presentation at the very end of the city commission meeting, adjourn the meeting. If any citizen would like to share their concerns with KPMG, you can do so at the conclusion of.
That's gonna be a long
Yeah,
meeting.
I think I wouldn't want to put our consultants in that position.
Well, I'm
because
just
it can-
thinking of
can get out of
Well,
control.
that's gonna be off the
alternatives.
record too, and people
But what about this?
about that.
What about this, Don? I have a feeling, strong feeling, that the city commission, barring costs or not being out of control, right? And I don't think we're out of control, and we don't know what the cost is yet. But given that caveat, I think the city commission is largely going to adopt what we tell them, or ask them, I should say, sorry. Right? So, that forum that we just discussed, right? Why don't we do it?
Yeah.
We do it, and if you want to bring it downstairs, we'll bring it downstairs. And
I
the
like
6
that
people that
idea.
come will have a lot of space, jokingly, but.
I like that idea.
And we do it, and we finalize our recommendation, and the city just does their normal business on the agenda, approval of water audit, and we
I like
take
that idea.
all of that out of the
We
picture.
have a forum with the auditing committee. with
Yeah,
the-
and then we have them do their presentation, what they're gonna do.
With the residents here,
Yeah.
that takes
Oh,
away
no,
all
no, no.
hostility. I like
It takes all that out.
Yeah,
It's a
that
hybrid.
works.
Bravo.
Okay.
That works.
that. I like that.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, all right.
Okay, Dana, we're sucking up now.
No, because that all came out of you guys' talk. Trust me, I'm not. But all right, so we're gonna direct them to do that, get the pricing.
Yes.
And then we did want to talk about questions. I know we said
So
um,
are we going to still send this out to bid then?
no.
We're just
We're
going
going-
to use the contract bid?
I think there was consensus for me to go back to our purchasing folks and engage KPMG to use our scope letter to come up with a customized scope letter for us in response with potentially different price points that we can.
Do you want to vote on the record?
Huh?
Do you want to do something on the record so we're all on?
We can if you like.
That's up to you.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Hey, I guess I'll put that in the form of a motion, right? To recommend to the city procurement department to engage in conversation with KPMG to use our scope recommendations to come back with a proposal to the city commission. Any objection? Without objection, we'll just approve that. If that's okay.
Approved. I agree.
Any objection? Okay, so that's approved.
I'm-
Hold on, let me finish the official business, and then you can say your part. But we're already once we started down that path, we can't stop that from the committee perspective. So there was no objection, and that's the direction. But we could always change it in a different motion. Go ahead.
I'm just concerned that the reputation of this committee might be compromised because you didn't send it out to bid.
I thought about that, and sorry, but I thought about that, and in this process that we're at, you always open yourself up to criticism, regardless of which way you go, right? But I think we've done the right thing in this process because this particular company, two things, was being praised by not only the public, some members of the public, but from this committee. Secondly, it's not a pre-negotiated contract or done business with the city that I'm aware of, right? So this was a state contract piggyback. And I think we could flip that argument. I said, we did this trying to be the best stewards of the tax dollars to to utilize what we feel is probably the best negotiated rate with a very competent company that doesn't seem to have any conflicts of interest with the city.
And who have proven, which the public can reach out to also, that they can look at the cities, you know what I mean? They're going to present their credentials
Yeah,
anyway.
I don't have any problem.
Yeah, no,
Well, it's a state negotiation.
I thought that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't.
And it's saving us time as well because
Yeah.
we're not going through that whole bidding process, and we're going to get the same people the city of Deltona usually gets
Mhm.
to put in for the bid. And I would probably have an issue with.
I'm impressed with the work that they've done.
I am too. I
Again,
mean,
hopefully we can afford everything we want, right?
They'll make it affordable.
Well, I certainly hope so.
They will, they will. They'll find a way to make
But
it.
Terry, I thought about that too, but
Okay.
I felt very confident. I was excited when I found that it was a state negotiated contract, to be honest.
Yeah, I was too.
Because obviously for someone to say that the state is in cahoots with the city now for this is a totally ridiculous statement.
well, I would think traditionally also you have at least sitting on this committee 3 of the biggest detractors that you could possibly have with us. You know what I mean? We've always, I think, as individuals have worked, and we've been really vocal about the city and what we thought, and we've all, I think, worked tirelessly in our community. And yeah,
Vocal critics is
yeah,
positive.
but but yeah.
This has
Hey,
something-
and that's why you're on this committee, for that exact purpose.
It's not being critical.
Keep it interesting.
It's not being,
Just be
I-
good with the statement.
it's shining light on what needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
Is what.
No, I get it.
And I give the city commission credit for doing this.
And by the way, just to give you guys an update, I've gotten 0 pushback on anything. 0. Not even a fraction of a pushback.
Are they paying attention to you?
Oh yeah, they are.
Okay.
I guarantee you they are.
Sometimes it's,
Well, and they've responded to every single request I've made, including the light bulbs. Thank you, Cindy. There were some light bulbs. I'm joking, but go ahead.
I would like to skirt. I really am really happy with everything that we've said, and would like to move forward. I have 2 things that I would like to address, kind of in closing, real quick. First of all, I have been asked during this process and before this process, and will probably be asked during this process and after this process, about any criminal doing on the water department. And we're talking about any type of corruption, criminality, whatever you can imagine. I would
Accusations,
like to,
right?
Yeah, exactly, accusations. And I would just like to say that the purpose of this audit is to improve our water department, period. And in the normal course of a company like KPMG doing an audit, if they find anything wrong that would trigger them in a professional setting, right, their professional opinion, at that juncture, from my understanding, they would get in touch with the proper law enforcement, which I'm guessing is going to be FDLE, and then make a recommendation there. So it's not that we're not advertising or shouting about that, but it is on the minds of us when we talk about this, because there will be those that ask about that really believe in their heart that something like that happened, right? And we want to assure every resident, no matter what their thoughts are on this process, that every avenue that the auditor will look at.
Yeah, can I add to that briefly?
Sure.
And I think the intent is not for this committee to state that there are these infractions, but if anything is surfaced during the process, that there is a process in place with the auditors
Yes.
to refer appropriately.
Yes. Yeah, you are absolutely correct, because as a committee member and as a resident and as somebody with personal experience, I will state this for the record. I believe in my situation and in other situations that this is an operational issue for me personally. I'm just stating that as a resident and as somebody that's had issues with the water department. It's my personal belief that there is just an issue with operational stuff. So,
And I share the same opinion.
yeah, I do. Terry?
Terry, yeah.
So, as part of our directions to the auditors, can we just be clear about what that process and that path will be? Should they determine that there's a possible criminal situation going
I'll ask the
on,
question.
because
I'll ask the
they
question.
would not report it to the FDLE because this audit is being requested by a private body. So they would normally report it back to the stakeholders.
But I would think that because it's a part of a municipality, it's a municipal owned,
I'll ask the question when the
Yeah,
auditor
because
comes.
it's a private entity.
okay, whatever that
So-
resolution is.
So
I-
I'm just saying, can we just get a clear
Well, that's-
idea of what that?
Yeah, because I just want the residents, all residents, and all residents' concerns to be addressed. That's my only reason for stating
It's a fair
that.
question.
Yeah.
It's a
Okay.
fair question because people have stated it.
It
So
should have
I'd
be
rather,
addressed.
I'd rather that
That's
be.
why I wanted the water community to be involved more during the process, because it gives the public some say in the process that it's not some.
Yeah, no, and I think, I hope we've satified that,
Yeah.
that we're gonna be part of the
Yeah, yeah,
process,
I know.
but we're not gonna be
I
like,
know
hey,
that.
sitting there on the side of the
Yeah,
desk watching
yeah.
what someone's talking about, you know what I mean?
I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I don't have time for that either.
And then the last thing that I would like to address is that it's been brought up again, and I would like to say that this is the last time that this will be brought up, because I think that we have clear answers, and I would like to refer to your office again about why this was not referred to OPAGA, JLAC, for the last time, for the record, to please state this and why we're doing it this way.
Want me to share that?
Yes, you or your
You know what, I'm
office.
gonna defer that to Eric because he's been neck deep.
Yes, he
entrenched
has.
in that, Eric, you know, and he can speak to it better. I could only talk at the 30,000 foot level.
So I have been in contact with Director Ropaga, Mr. Philip Toogood. And when I spoke to Mr. Toogood about this issue coming up, there's only going to be three ways primarily, and no matter who calls his office, it's always going to be the same answer, but there are three primary ways, three or four, right? Which is one, there'll be a citizen-led petition drive. They'll make the ask to OPAGA, to JLAC, to have an audit done. It'll be municipality or county level. Okay, that's kind of lumped them together. That'll be two. Or your state legislator. In this case, it was David Santiago, Representative Santiago. And so what happens is OPAGA and JLAC are governed by a joint rule that's in both the House and Senate rule books, and that is 3.17A. So no matter who approaches OPAGA or submits anything to OPAGA or JLAC, there is still going to be the same process that Representative Santiago went through, which is everything gets directed to the Speaker's office. In OPAGA's case, what we did was we went directly through OPAGA, kind of cut the middleman out a little bit, so to speak, if you will, to JLAC, and went directly through OPAGA. However, even if it had gone through JLAC, there is still, JLAC, remember, at the end of the day, is a joint legislative auditing committee. It is a committee made up of state representatives and state senators. That committee then makes a recommendation, which means that whatever the issue is, it still has to go through a committee process. The committee could go ahead and deny the request. Even if it makes it out of the committee, the speaker may still deny the request. But if it does make it through, then they are the ones who set the agenda for OPAGA to make that review. So in this process, I believe, and it's my belief, and it is the belief of the director, and I don't want to speak 100% for him, but in my conversations with him directly, and this was within the last several days, was Eric, we operate on the joint rules 3.17A, and what you all did by going to Representative Santiago is the same process, whether it be a municipality or a citizen petition drive. The end result is going to be the end result. There is no 100% guarantee. There will still be, someone's still going to have to pay for it, whether it be on a cost-sharing basis with the local municipality and the state, or the state pays for it all together, or in some cases, the city pays for it. Either which way, somebody's going to have to pay for it. So the fact that it did not make it through, it's unfortunate, and unfortunately the governor's office vetoed it. They had their reasons for it, but we are where we're at now, and nothing would have changed, regardless of what people's perceptions are. I can only tell you Mr. Toogood told me himself. I will give the same answer no matter who calls my office. Either your state legislator, county, municipality, or citizen-led petition drive.
So in
It's always
summary,
the same, yes.
there was comments that why did we stop the petition process? Why didn't you continue with that? Even if that process had completed and was successful, it would have probably wound up in the same state with the request, and this is where the direction we got the speaker and all that stuff. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else you want to add, Dana?
Yes, I would like to add that that is I have done exhaustive research along with your office on that matter. And it is like my humble opinion as one person that we are doing this the most direct, most economical, most cost-saving way, the most transparent way. We have more control, and I don't mean that we're directing them what to do, but we're more involved in the process, right? And are closer to being able to, be involved with what's going on. And as far as somebody making the city do anything based on these findings, I really believe that the city is, trying to fix it based on every single conversation that I've had with the water department director, with, you know what I mean? So there's that, and I just kind of wanted to put that to bed. And not only that, it saved the residents a lot more work getting signatures, because it's exhausting, and we have a lot of residents that are not able to get out and help. We have a lot of residents that just didn't get out and help. So I think that this is the most direct and effective way. So I would just like to put that issue to bed. Anybody else can feel free to go explore it, but as far as me sitting on this committee, the issue is done for me.
Okay. No, that's true. I know there's still talks about that, but I didn't know you'd done that research, so. What else we got?
So when KPMG comes, we'll be able to ask them questions.
I think we should, yes.
Okay. One of the questions that I have in my mind is about the water quality.
Yeah.
Do they have the capability of looking into the water quality,
Well, I think-
or they use another company to do that?
Obviously, that's a very subjective type of question, right? The quality, where I may like it and you may hate it, but I think science is best.
We're talking about the chemicals that they're using
Yeah,
for treatments.
science,
and so forth.
Yeah.
So I think that those reports, I know Santiago talked a little bit about it a few
Yeah.
weeks ago, that those reports are public reports. So I think I had mentioned, and unless there's changes, kind of sort of look at Deltona. Are we an outlier with the chemicals we're using? Our quality, whatever the state looks at, the health department looks at, are we constantly in violation? Are we constantly having problems? And is that the norm, or are we outside the norm? Right?
Are they? Yeah. Hopefully, they can break it down by the part of where you lie within the water system.
Oh, it's a good question. That's a good question to ask.
Can I interject something there? I think I sent this to Eric in an email. My wife and I, we had to walk about a block, I guess, to get our mail. One afternoon, we were walking down to the mailbox, and the city employee had a fire hydrant open. Why was he flushing water for? Everybody's using water, so they shouldn't have to be flushing it. And so as we got up to him, we noticed he had a plastic cup, and he would dip it into the water and bring it up and smell it and dump it out and wait 2 or 3 minutes, do the same thing again.
Interesting.
Now he did this at the time we walked to the mailbox and got our mail and was walking back. When he finally turned the water off, I would say 5 minutes maybe. So that just, what's going on here? So I went out and purchased a chlorine test kit, and it fluctuates all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
The highest, which is the highest this little kit will test, is 10 parts per million, which is enough to turn, if you're a blonde, to turn your hair green if it's in a swimming pool. 5 parts per million will also do it, not quite as quick. The normal of this is between 4 and 5. It never goes below 4 and oscillates up and down above 4. So somewhere they're not controlling what they're putting in the water too well. And this is eating up valves in the water system inside the houses. Not to mention the same thing out in the meter that's out in the yard and the fire hydrant. That is, everything we do anymore has rubber seals in it. There's no more brass fittings, especially for water. So, to me, that level of chlorine in the water, well, it will mess up your, and I hope this isn't offending anybody, it will mess up your bowels, it will mess up your urinary tract, it will mess up your hair and your skin.
That's what happened to me. I swear.
Just happening to me.
Before I moved here, it was a full head. Sorry. I get it. I get what you're saying.
There's one thing, I'm sorry, here's one thing on here. It talks about KPMG is committed to helping city meet its objectives to support its mission and dedication to give every citizen and stakeholder access to clean water with accurate and transparent pricing.
Okay.
So, yeah, we can bring that up, I mean, but that's, yeah.
I know that those of us that are farther away have more chemicals in the water, I think, because they have to sanitize it more throughout the.
And
I don't know. I mean, that's you're guessing that. I'm not trying to offend you, but I'm not.
That's what Deltona Water has told us before.
Really?
Yes. And then as
the furthest
as it
away-
goes by, more chlorine it goes.
I think it's the opposite, though.
Yeah, but, okay, you're out here, and I'm here, and they're putting more chemicals in going to you, well, guess what I'm getting?
You're first. That's why I would think it's
Yeah.
the opposite, though. And again, I'm not a water guy, but anyway, we can certainly ask these questions, and I'll tell Kate to make sure that they're prepared to answer some questions from the committee, right? They'll all be relative to the scope areas that we've talked about.
As far as water quality in the state, as you know, everybody, the whole state of Florida is going through a very, very tough time regarding where to move forward with infrastructure and stuff, because the current models, whether you're on sewer or not, is not working for the for the state. So I think that goes into a bigger problem than what we have right here.
Yeah.
And I want to just thank you also, because I know that you've got your hand on that pulse, and I see stuff that you post about that water quality all the time, because it is.
I think it's a big deal. We should
Yeah.
ask those questions, Tim. I think it's perfect. Perfectly asking that. I wanted to share with the committee, too, that the information that Valerie gave us on the FAQ from Palm Coast, she went to the Palm Coast website and she provided a very good in-depth commonly asked questions or myths, kind of, sort of, right? On, why do I have a ring around my toilet, and why does the water smell? And they outlined those categories and gave common answers to that. And I said, that was great. So I've shared that with Sandy, and she's given it to our leaders, and I believe they're working on implementing something very similar. And I said, if we don't disagree with those answers, let's put it up there. FAQ. The more information people have, the better.
I think our residents would really appreciate a separate answer other than you might have a leak.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I helped push that, and they're working on it. I get it.
Somebody might pay in pennies if they keep it.
Don't need to do it.
Yeah, it might be time to penny.
So the good news is they're acting on that. I wanted to share that with you all from last week. We'll see when it goes live, but they're responding to it. Anything else?
We should be good to move
So
forward. And stuff.
Eric will send out an email when I have an update as to where we're at with. I don't think we should set a date yet because we don't know how long. So we'll reach out to everybody, either phone or email. Hey, this is where we're at. Everybody available this day? Can we do that? And my guess it'll probably be a couple weeks.
Yep.
Can I get a copy of that scope letter?
Yeah, it's right there.
Email me to it.
It's right, did you make a copy? Where's the copy? His copy of the scope letter.
I thought
That's
this
it?
was just an outline.
No, that was
That's the scope.
that's the draft.
We don't have the scope response yet from the KPMG. We're going to ask them to give us that. That's what we told them we'd like for you to consider giving us a quote on, basically, proposal.
Okay, this was going to KPMG?
Yes, sir, to give us a proposal.
Go, go, Godzilla.
Oh, yeah, right? Yeah, cool. That's the new one. All right. Without any other business, we are adjourned. Thank you, Sandy.